What's up, guys? Practical Web Dev here. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be building this challenge on Frontend Mentor, the ping single column coming soon page. So look at the challenge here. Simple enough. It's not too difficult, but there is a couple little tricky things in here that might trip you up, especially if you're new. So we're going to go ahead and build this together. Just a simple little email area, and we'll add some JavaScript for form validation. So there's the desktop. Here's the mobile. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to download starter. All right, I'm going to unzip it and bring it over here onto my desktop. And then I'm going to open up my Visual Studio Code. Drag this in here, get my file set up. So let's make this big. I'm going to delete the files I don't need right now. So this get ignore can go. We're going to delete that. We're going to delete the readmes, both of the readme pages. I don't need those because all they really do is try to get you to upgrade to the pro version of Frontend Mentor. All this stuff in the style guide I don't want. I like to clean everything up to everything I need, and that's it. Upgrade to pro. All right, and then we'll go to the index.html, and we don't really need any of this. I like to make my own HTML, so I'm just going to make my own boilerplate. We'll make our page title ping. We'll put a pipe, and we'll say coming soon. And then we go into our images, and I'm going to get rid of the Frontend Mentor favicon. Don't want that in there. All right, and then what else do we need to do? We need to make a CSS file, so let's go to New File. We'll do a style.css, and then we got to do some JavaScript, so I'll do an app.js file as well. Let's add that to our HTML page before we forget. So I'm going to go below my last meta tag and make a link tag. The rel is going to be style sheet, and we're going to connect our style.css. And then our body, we're going to make a script tag, and we're going to connect our JavaScript src equals app.js. So it's always a good idea to test your JavaScript and CSS connections right away. So let's do that. Let's do an h1. We'll say test. Go to style.css. I'll say h1 color red. And then for our JavaScript, we'll make an alert. We'll say JS connected. That'll tell us if JavaScript is loading on our page. So let's go ahead and we'll go live here and we'll test this out. All right, guys. So we got our page loaded up here. Our JS is connected. We're getting our alert, so that's good. And then our H1 is red. So CSS and JavaScript are both connected. So let's delete that from our JavaScript. Delete that. We will do a page reset in our CSS. So let's just do that now. So let's do select all with the asterisk. We'll say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box. There we go. And now we got rid of all the default margin and padding that Google Chrome and all other browsers come with by default. So I'm just going to open the finished product here in a new tab so we can reference it together. So say open image in new tab. There we go. Now we can look at it as we build so we know what we're building. Close Frontend Mentor. So we're going to need, looking at the project here, we have these social links down here. So we're going to need to grab some social links. We're going to use a website called Font Awesome for that. And then there's also some Google fonts that we'll need to grab in our style guide. It tells us here that they're using a font family of Libre Franklin with font weights 300, 600, and 700. So let's grab our font and our icons library to put in our code. So let's go here. I'll make this big. Go to Google Fonts. All right, so we're in Google Fonts. Now we got to search for Libre Franklin. I don't think I've ever used this one before. There it is. So we'll click Get Font here on the top right corner. Click Get Embed Code. And we're going to copy, let's see, can do one value or the full. Okay, so let's just do the full access for now just to make it simple. Just grab all the font weights. It's not a big deal. We'll copy the code. And I'll put my Google Fonts code above my style sheet, the CSS font family for it. So there it is. And then we can put that in the body. We'll just go to our CSS and select the whole body. And we'll make that the default font family for the page. And then we'll check it. And there we go. Now our font family is changed to that Libre Franklin. So we can get out of Google Fonts now. And now we got to grab Font Awesome for these social icons. And let's actually get a better, this is really blurry. So let's do this. Let's grab this preview.jpg and put it up here if we can. That's better. That's a little better. Where we're going to go now is a website called Font Awesome, and they give you free font icons to use on websites. So we go to fontawesome.com. I'm already signed up. I already have what's called a kit, and a kit is just the code that, like Google Fonts, that allows you to paste in your HTML to access their library. If you don't have a kit yet, you'll click up here and you'll hit sign up, and then you'll give them your email and everything that they want, and then you'll get a kit. You'll be able to go to your kits, and then you'll be able to select your kit down here, or you'll add a new kit if you don't have one, and you'll get this, a little snippet of code that looks like this that's unique to you. And then you can copy it and go ahead and paste in your HTML in the head. And I usually put mine before my Google font, put my kit first, and that'll give us access to all these icons when we need them. We're not going to need them just yet, but when we get to the footer, we'll be able to go here. And all these icons are just free. And this is how you get social link icons on your website for free. And we can really, we're all set to go here. We can actually start building this project now. So let's get rid of this H1 that says test. And I'm going to make a utility class first called a container class that will make sure that our design doesn't have go all the way out to the edges of the page. And that's going to be we're going to call that dot container. Pretty standard class, pretty standard utility class that we always make. If you don't know what CSS utility classes are, what I'm talking about, I have a YouTube video that I'll link in the description that explains what they are and how to use them. So we're going to make the max width of our page. It's going to be 1440 pixels. And then I'm going to say width. And then I'm going to say width 90%. Margin auto. And then I'm also going to use text align center so that everything is centered within the container, because on our design, everything, the text, the form, the image, everything is centered. So by me putting text align center on that container, it's going to center everything for us. So let's put our container class first here. So we'll go to the body. We'll say dot container. And then everything is going to go in between those divs. Obviously, there's no content, so we're not going to see anything now. But if we put a border on it, just to show you, you can say border 2 pixels, solid, black, and then we can say height 500 pixels. That's our container. So this is it's going to be invisible, so I'm going to delete the border, but all of our website content's going to go in here. It's not allowed to bleed out into the sides. Okay, just so you can see what that's doing. So we'll get rid of that. And the first thing that we need to do is put our header down, and in the header is going to just be a logo called that says ping. So let's do that. We'll go into our HTML below our container, and we'll make a header tag, and we'll put in an image, and I'll give this a class of logo. Go into our images folder, and we're going to get the logo.svg, and then in our alt text we'll just put logo, or we're going to put ping logo. Save. Look at our page, and now it's there. And remember, our logo is already centered because we have text align center on our whole container. If we took that out, it would go off to the text align left, which is just the default, right? So let's bring it back. And now let's bring this header down so it's not right up against there. So let's select it. Let's say header, say padding top 4 rem. Give it some room. There we go. And now next we'll do our H1, says we are launching soon. So let's get out of our header, and we'll just say H1, we are launching, and then we'll do a span. And since this text is black and bold, or it's bolder, at least I don't know if it's black, we're going to do a span on that. We're going to put the text that needs to be a different color in there using a span class, which is just like a built-in utility HTML tag, if you will. We'll put a class on here, and we'll call it bold-text. And then we'll do the soon part. So we'll say soon. There we go. So now we got to style this up. So let's go to our H1. And our H1 text is going to be, I believe, this light gray, which is an HSL color. I don't really like HSLs, but I'll use them for now because I'm just too lazy to change it to hex code. So we'll say color, this light gray. There we go. And now the font weight on that is only going to be 300, I believe. Yeah, so the first part of the H1 is going to be font weight 300, so it'll be skinny. And then we'll make our font size a little bit bigger. We'll make it 42 pixels. And then we'll give it some margin top of 2.5 rem to get it off of the logo. And now we got to style up that bold text class. So let's grab that. And that'll change the soon to the styles that we need it. So let's say dot bold text. And the color for this is going to be the, I believe, this dark blue. So let's paste that in there. And then we're going to say font weight, and the boldest one, 700. So we'll say font weight 700. There we go. We are launching soon. We are launching soon. So ours is looking pretty identical, so that's good. Now below there, we're going to put a subheading that says subscribe and get notified. So I'll just make that an H4. And we'll do subscribe and get notified. And then around all of this, after our header, if you want, you can put a main tag if you want to be really semantic with your HTML. It really doesn't matter on small projects like this, to be honest. But if you want to, you can put everything in a main tag that we're building now. It's up to you. Honestly, guys, like I harp on a lot on this channel, like just make stuff work. Don't worry about getting caught up in perfection with all the best practices. Just make websites work, man. Search engines and technology is so good today that even if you're not super semantic with your HTML, like Google's still gonna know what your web page is about. Like it's very advanced, so not the end of the world. So our subscribe and get notified, we got to style that up. So let's grab our H4 and we'll say padding top 1 rem. The color is gonna be that dark color, so this one. And guys, these are actually really starting to annoy me. I usually change these from HSL to hex code. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to edit the video out. I'm not going to spend all that time doing it in front of you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google and I'm just going to say HSL to hex converter. I'm going to use htmlcolors.com. And then I'm going to copy and paste each one of my HSL colors into this website and get the hex code for it so that VS Code knows what color I'm using and it's in hex mode. So like this HSL is 969696. So I'm going to, through the magic of editing, I'm just going to change all those colors now. And then when we jump back, if you want to do the same thing, go to that website. It's a lot easier to work with hex code colors. So there we go, guys. I just changed all to the hex code colors. You can just copy them down here if you don't want to go through that and do that yourself. Pause the video and do that. And we're going to keep going here. So let's change this to the HSL. It should be, so the light gray one. And then that way Visual Studio Code will actually save them so I don't have to keep rewriting and copying and pasting like I do with HSL codes. I don't know why Frontend Mentor gives them to you in HSL codes. I think they're just trying to be cool and trendy, but it's actually kind of detrimental because I don't know anybody that uses this crap in the real world. So I get that you're trying to be cool, Frontend Mentor, but come on. So now in the future, if we just want to do a color, we can do a color. And all the hex codes that we use so far will show up. We don't got to copy and paste. VS Code remembers them. So it's worth it to get that feature alone. So we have a typo here. Let's fix it. It's supposed to say subscribe, not sunscribe. There we go. Again, for our H4, our font weight, we're going to change to 300. There we go. And then I'm going to give this a font size of 20 pixels. Get a little bit bigger. All right, let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So looking pretty good so far. We're going to move on now to our little form. So it's just going to be an input field and a submit button. So let's go below our H4 and we'll say form. And I'm going to give our form an ID of email dash form so that we can grab onto that ID later on when we do our JavaScript. We're not going to do a form action. But, so we're going to delete that. The action, guys, is for when you're using a backend language like PHP, and you're going to actually put the web address that you're going to submit the form to, which is usually like a backend logic page or something like that on your PHP code that'll validate the form and save it to the database. If you want to learn more about that, guys, shameless plug, I do have a complete web developer course where you can learn about full stack PHP development right out of the gate. In little bite-sized 5-minute lessons, we take you through HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. This is a 100% project-based course with 400 plus lessons Then again, they're easy to follow. Most of them are 5 minutes or less. It's only $20 a month. And again, we learn all of this stuff by building projects. So no offense, but if you're here and you need hand-holding with this kind of a design, which is actually pretty simple because you weren't taught the correct way to build stuff by whatever other instructor you learned from, I'll get you out of that in the course. I'll actually teach you how to break down designs and how to think about stuff so that by the end of the course, you won't need me and you'll be a full-stack developer. And again, guys, look at all the projects. This is all just projects that we build. PHP, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, all projects, because that's how you learn. No boring theory. So let's delete our action here because we're not going to be using that because we're not full stack developers yet. Let's get into our form and let's do first thing we're going to do is a form inputs container div that we're going to put our inputs in. And then below there, we're going to put what's called an input, another div, and we're just going to call it input wrapper. And we need to do this because we need to put our email input box and the error message for JavaScript in the same div so that they stack on top of each other. And what I mean is here, if we look at the design and we go over to the desktop hover, it shows you here that we're eventually going to have an error message appear and it needs to be below the input. So that's why we have to wrap our input field for the email in another wrapper so that it kind of combines them. You'll see what I mean as we get through the project here and why I'm doing that. So in our input wrapper, and again, that's just the way I'm doing it, guys. There's with everything with coding, there's 100 different ways to do stuff. This is just my way of doing it, okay? So let's make our input field, and it's going to be a type of text. We'll give it an ID of email -input, and then it's going to have some placeholder text that says your email address ... Okay, there's our field. And then below it, we're going to have a div called error message. And this is for when we implement JavaScript, but for now, we're going to put it in here. And the error message says, please provide a valid email address. Okay, so we'll keep that there for now. We're going to eventually make that display none, but we'll keep it there for now. And then below our input wrapper, we're going to go below it now, and we're going to put our submit buttons. So we're going to say input, and this type is going to be submit, and the value is going to be, let's see, what does the design say? Oh, we got rid of our design. The design says notify me. So let's say notify me. Can bring this back over here. There we go. Notify me, notify me. Okay, perfect. So let's start styling this up now. So first thing I want to do is give my form some breathing room. So I'll just select it by its selector by now. I'll say form, and I'm going to say margin top 2rem. Bring it down a little bit, get some space there. And now I'm going to grab my next class, which is the form inputs container. So let's grab that, copy that. Say dot form inputs container, and we'll say display flex, align items center, justify content center, and then we'll say column gap 10 pixels. So that puts our submit button and input field side by side with Flexbox. They're a little uneven because this error message is pushing this up. I'll show you how to fix that, okay? So we're going to leave that there for now. Don't panic. Next, we got to style up our email input. Or actually, we'll do our input wrapper since that's next. So let's grab input wrapper. Dot input wrapper. And for that, we're going to say display again. We're going to use flex. But we're going to say flex direction columns so that they're always stacking. And that goes back below it. And then we're going to say align items flex start. So it's aligned left by default. And then we're going to say position relative for now. Because we're going to end up using absolute positioning for this error message so that when it appears, it doesn't do what it's doing now, which is push our input up and make it look out of sync, our whole design. At least on desktop, we don't want it to look like that. So we will fix that. All right, so now let's style our actual email input. It has to look like this. It has to be rounded and have that light gray background or border color. So let's make that happen. So let's grab our email input ID. And we'll go down here, say ID, hashtag, email input. And we're going to say a width. We're going to give it a width. Whoops, what do we do here? Okay, we'll give it a width of 420 pixels. Going to give it a height of 55 pixels. And then we're going to say border radius 30 pixels to give it that rounding. And then we're going to say border 1 pixel solid. And we're going to use that light color. Let's see, this light blue, this C2D3FF color. I think that's what the border is. I don't have the professional Figma file, so we kind of have to guess on some of these colors. I think that's the color it is. Based off this blurry preview design I have, I think that's it. It could be the gray, I don't know, but I'm going to go with the blue. If it's the gray, use the gray. Doesn't matter. And then we need to give this thing some padding left so that our placeholder text and our text for our input field is pushed over. It's not over to the side like that. So I'll say padding left 1.5 rem. And that pushes that over. And then the placeholder text, we're going to say font size 18 pixels. There we go. And then I'm going to style up the placeholder text so it's that light gray color that we have. So to style placeholder text, I'm going to grab the email input. And then you go colon, and then you say placeholder. And that's how you style placeholder text color and stuff like that. So I'm going to say color. And I'm going to make sure it's this 969696 color. And again, I think that's what it is based off of what I look at here. If I'm wrong, guys, that's fine. You can comment on it. Make it whatever color it's supposed to be if you have the Figma file. But again, like I said, don't be perfectionist. That really doesn't matter that much. Moving on, let's style up our error message. So we'll copy that. And this is a class, right? Yeah. So we'll do our dot selector for classes. For our error message, we're going to do color. It's going to be a red color that isn't listed in the style guide. It's going to be hashtag FD6F7E. There we go. So it's like an off red. By default, we'll say text align left. And then we're going to say padding left of 1 rem. Push it over a little bit. And then we're going to make the text italic because that's how it is in the error message. If we zoom in, it looks like it's italic. See how it's over here? See how we're making it over here? And we can actually push this over a little bit more. Actually, we'll do that with absolute positioning. So let's get rid of the padding left for now. Let's do the font style. Say font style italic. There we go. And now let's position it. Let's say position absolute. There. And now you can see it's up here now, but it fixed the thing where it was pushing our input field up. Now our input field and our submit button are like centered vertically, so that looks a lot better. And now after we do position absolute, we can say top 110% to bring it down just below where it's supposed to be, like it is on the design. And then we can say left 1 rem. And we can probably even do more. Let's say we'll left 1.5 rem. And that's pretty much where it looks like it is on the design. Yeah, so now that we use positioning absolute for that, it'll stay there no matter what, at least on our desktop. That's how we want it, and it won't affect our input and push it up. So we don't want this error message showing until we hook it up with JavaScript and there's actually an issue. So now I'm going to say display none just to get rid of it for now because we don't want it there by default. If you can look here, though, there is also a red border that's supposed to go around here if something's wrong. So we're going to make a class for that now, and then we'll put that on dynamically with JavaScript when we get to that part. So I'm going to say email input, and then we're going to attach a class to it of error dash border. And then when we have the error border, when we add it with JavaScript, it's going to be border 1 pixel solid, and then that red color. So that'll come on, and you'll see that when we use JavaScript. Now let's go ahead and submit, or let's style our submit button. So our little notify me button here. It's supposed to have a background of blue and all that. So let's grab it. Did we even put a class on here? So let's give it a class just to select it super easy. Let's say class submit-btn, and then we'll copy it, paste it here, say .submit button. And for this, we're going to say background color, and it's going to be that darker blue. So this one here, copy and paste that. All right, and then we'll say color, text is going to be white. We're going to say border none to get rid of that black border. And then the width of our submit button is going to be 210 pixels on desktop. And the height is going to be the same as the other inputs. They match, 55 pixels. And we're going to say font size, 18 pixels. We'll make sure it is a cursor pointer so that when we hover over it, we get the hand. And then same thing as the other input, we're going to say border radius, 30 pixels. And now there is a little bit of box shadow on here, I think. I can see it right there. What I do to generate box shadow is I go to a website called Box Shadow Generator. I don't ever write it by hand. And then this little online tool allows you to adjust this and get your box shadow just how you want it. It's very subtle box shadow, so do that. And then I think it's just on the bottom pretty much, so I just move this down a little bit, just like that. Just kind of play with it a little bit. Something like that. So I'll just copy this, all this code over and paste it right here. And then we'll have a little bit of box shadowing on our button. And again, from our blurry image, that's what I'm catching a little bit of box shadow here. So pretty close. Again, you don't got to be perfectionist, guys. It's okay if it's not perfect. If we look at our design in the hover state again, so let's zoom out here. The button does get lighter when we hover over it, so let's do that effect now before we move on. So to do that, we're going to add a transition onto here. So we'll say transition, and we're going to transition the opacity of the button to make it lighter. We're going to say 0.2 seconds and ease in. And then if we copy submit btn, and then do a colon and say hover. And then we're going to say when you hover over it, say opacity 0.9. And that should give it that effect where it lights up, kind of. Oh, forgot our dot selector here, so nothing's happening now. Let's try that again. And there you go. You can see it gets like ever so slightly brighter. And that's how you do that with opacity. That's a little hover trick that helps your buttons look a little bit better when you hover over them. All right, so let's keep moving on down here. We got our image and the footer, so we're almost done. So let's get our image put in here. So let's go to our index.html. And go below our form. And for that, we're just going to say image. Going to go to images. Going to grab illustration dashboard.png. There it is. It's super big. We got to style it up. Let's put a class on here. And we'll call it dashboard-img. Dashboard image. And I'm not going to add alt text. I'm going to actually delete it because this is one of those things, guys, where you're really only supposed to use alt text on images when it's like intricate to the design of the web page so a screen reader can read what's going on. Since this is really just pure decoration, like there's no really real significance to this, I'm going to leave the alt text off. You can add alt text if you want, but again, it's one of those things where this is just literally decoration. It really doesn't do anything. It's just an image. Let's style it up though. So let's grab the dashboard.img class and we'll style it up. Say .dashboard.img. I'm going to say display block, and then I'm going to say margin 3rem auto, and then I'm going to give this thing on desktop a fixed width of 650 pixels because that's about the size that it looks like in our design. So there we go. That looks a lot better. It fits in the design now. All right, next up we got to build our social links menu with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram icons. So let's do that. So I'm going to go below my image, and I'm going to make a UL, an unordered list, and I'm going to have a class name on there and call it social links menu. And then we're going to do a list item, and I'm going to give those a class of social link li. And then within there, they're going to have links. So we're going to do an anchor tag. We give the links a class of social link. And then within the link, we're going to have the icon. So let's go grab our icons. First, we need Facebook. So I'll just go here. I'm going to type in font awesome. And let's grab a Facebook icon, go to the search. And I'm going to say Facebook. It's going to be this F1. I'm going to grab it. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. I'm going to click on this paint thing over here and make it LG, make it a little bit larger than normal. Copy that. And I don't know how big they are. I can't really tell from here. They look kind of small, but I'll just make mine a little bit bigger. Why not? If it's too big or if it's bigger than the original, that's okay with me. So there's our Facebook, and there it is. So let's copy down this LI with the link and the icon in it twice. And now we just got to grab the Twitter and Instagram icons. So let's X this out. I'll say Twitter, this bird, and then same thing, I'll say LG, copy, and it's going to go right here. Okay, here we go. Now it's got to get Instagram. So let's grab Instagram right here. LG for large, grab that icon, copy it, put it here, paste that in. Now we got all three. So now let's go ahead and style this menu up. So let's grab our UL social links menu here. And we'll go down here, we'll say dot social links menu. And the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the bullet points. So I'm going to say list style none. And then we're going to say display, flex, align item center, justify content center. Centers them, puts them side by side. And then we're going to say column gap 2 rem. So basically padding on the sides of 2 rem. Separate them a little bit. And now we got to we'll style up this social LI. So we'll say, let's grab that social link LI. Paste that in here, and we have to with CSS we got to put those little circles around them, like the designs. Yeah, you can kind of see there's like blue circles around them. You can't really see in this image, but they're there. Maybe if we view it in here, you can kind of see it better here. There's like little gray circles, so we got to make that with CSS. So let's make our circles. Let's say height. Whoops. Say height 40 pixels, width 40 pixels, border radius 50%, save. Oh, we got to give them a border. So let's say border 1 pixel, solid, and we'll use the 9.6 color. And it might actually be the blue color. This one, this light blue. Yeah, I think it's that. So we have our circles. Now we got to center these in here. So we can do that with Flexbox. We can say display, flex, align item center, justify content center. And then the icons by default, so we'll do and they're supposed to have a color of this blue, lighter blue. There we go. Now it looks like the design. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So we're there. If we look at the design, though, there is a hover state to where the background turns blue and the icon turns white. So let's do that now. So on our icon, we'll put a transition. And we'll just say transition all 0.2 seconds, ease in. And then we can do and then pseudo selector of hover. And then we can just say change your color to white when we hover over you with the mouse. So if we save and check that, now they'll go white. So now we got to change the background to blue. So for that, it'll be the social link LI. So same thing, let's just put transition on there. Copy and paste that. Copy and paste this and put hover on it. And then we'll give this a background color of the blue. Save. So that's that. Last thing we have to do for the desktop design is just the copyright that says copyright ping all rights reserved. So let's go to our index.html, and we're going to go below our main tag, because now we're in the footer, and we're going to say footer, ampersand, copy, semicolon. That makes the copyright symbol. And we're going to say copy, right, ping, all rights reserved. Now let's just go style our footer up a little bit. Say footer. We'll say margin top and bottom 2 rem, 0 rem left and right. Give it some space there. And then the color of the text is going to be that gray. Boom. Okay. So that's our desktop design, guys. That's pretty close to the original. About as close as I can get without having the Figma file. So looking good. Now we got to make this thing mobile. So we can get rid of these 3 things. And let's look at the mobile design up here. And everything just stacks. So not too hard to achieve. So we'll go down here, make a comment in our CSS. We'll say media queries. And if you'll notice, guys, before we add the JavaScript, I like to get my whole design front end completed, and then I add the programming and the JavaScript. I do the same thing when I build full stack projects. I always build the front end with HTML and CSS first, and then I'll add the PHP and the JavaScript and all the programming logic after I have my front end complete so I can see what I'm working on. So let's make a media query here. We'll say at media screen and then we'll say max width. And I'm going to say a max width of 700 pixels and less, where is going to be all of our mobile styles for phones. Let's relaunch the project here. I think I X'd it out. There we go. So let's view this on like mobile phones like this, and we can see what we got to fix here. Or we'll use the Google developer tools. Let's do this the right way. Right click and hit inspect. If you're not good with the developer tools or you don't know what they are, I have a whole tutorial on how to use them like a pro. I will post that in the description of the video as well. There we go. And then if you click this little icon down here, it'll bring you into the mobile view. So this is on an iPhone 7, 6, 7, 8 Plus. Let's view it on a 12 Pro, more modern phone. And this is what we're working with right now. So obviously we got to fix that. So let's start styling stuff up. Let's go down here into our media queries. First thing I'm going to do is make my H1, that huge heading, a little smaller. I'm going to say H1, say font size 32 pixels. That helps already. The next thing that's really breaking the design is our huge image. It's like 600 and whatever pixels wide, and these screens are only 390, 400 pixels and lower on phones. So that's going to break our whole design really bad and really distort it. So let's fix that now, even though it's not really like next up in the order, just to get our image sorted out. So let's go up here and copy our image code, and right here, dashboard IMG, and we'll put that here. And we're going to say width. Instead of like a fixed width, we're just going to say 100% of its container on mobile. And that'll keep it within the container class. And now that's looking a lot better. And then these display block and margin 3 rem, we're going to keep that. It's going to inherit those styles from the top desktop styles. So we can just delete those. And now let's fix our other thing that's really breaking this. And that's our side-by-side input fields. So let's grab our form inputs container. Grab this right here. Paste it right here. And we're going to say column gap 0 pixels. We're going to delete these top 3, and we're going to change it to flex direction column so they stack like that. And then we have to use another thing called align items stretch so that we can put these things 100% width and they stack on top of each other nice and even. So we'll put that there. And then we're also going to do our input wrapper really quick for our error message that we can't see right now in our other in our email input field. And we need to say width 100%. Same thing, align items stretch, and we're going to say text align initial so that it keeps our position align error text where it should be. And again, our message isn't showing right now, but it will when we add the JavaScript in just a second. So now we can go down here and we can say, we can grab our email and let's just copy it. It's always best to copy and paste your class and ID names just to not get a typo. Copy email input, put it down here. And all we want to change on that is the width. So we'll delete everything else. We'll say width 100%. There we go. And then let's grab our submit button and do that too. Is our submit BTN. Put it below here. And we're just going to say width 100%. There we go. And then now we got to separate them vertically. So for this, we'll just say margin top 1 rem. There we go. Now they've got some separation. And now we're already pretty much looking like the design like we should. Now let's make our error message appear again so we can style that for mobile. So let's go to error message. Let's just comment the display none out. And our error message needs some work, as you can see, because now it's bleeding into the input. So let's grab that, copy this down, and it should go above our submit button because that's where it is in the code. And we're going to delete all this. We want the text align to be centered. And then we're going to say padding left 0. We're going to move this to position static from position absolute so that it actually starts moving where we want it to. There we go. Position static, guys, is basically just saying like default positioning. And then let's just say padding top, give it some padding top of 10 pixels. And now our message is appearing nice and centered and how it should be on mobile when it has to appear. So that should be it for our mobile styles. Let's get rid of our let's keep it for now actually, just so we can do a little test on if this thing looks good mobile or not. So let's start desktop, tablet, and mobile. Everything stacks. So looks good to me. We can right click and inspect and see how it looks on different phones. Portrait, landscape. So remember, once we get up above 700 pixels and more, it'll go back to the desktop where these are side by side. Let's do a tablet, Galaxy S8. I think it's a really old phone, but whatever. LG Optimus 70. Looks good. iPhone 12 Pro. iPhone 14 Pro. It's my phone. Yeah, so we're good to go here, guys. So let's get rid of that error message and just add our JavaScript form validation, and we'll be good to go. So where's our error message? So right here, display none. I'm going to uncomment it back so it's out of here. And now we're going to add some JavaScript to make that message appear when we submit our form if it's wrong, basically. So I'm going to make a comment. I'm going to grab our DOM elements. So I'll say DOM elements. And again, guys, if you're doing this project and you've never done JavaScript yet and this is all totally new to you, shameless plug, if you want to learn JavaScript from the very beginning, along with HTML, CSS, PHP, be full stack developer, check out the Complete Web Developer course. We learn JavaScript by building 10 plus little projects that'll teach you the fundamentals and everything you need to know to be really good at JavaScript. And we include everything in here, including form validation and all of that, which we're doing right now, but with smaller projects that are super, super easy to follow. I mean, this little project that we're doing now is really easy, but we do about 10 of these to really get JavaScript in your head. So let's select our email form. So I'll say const email form, and that's going to equal document dot get element by ID. And we can make this big for now. And I usually, in VS Code, when I'm doing JavaScript, I usually just have my HTML and JavaScript side by side. So I click this little window up here. And now I can look at my HTML and copy the element names that I need and paste them in here. So we need email form, and it should be an ID. So here's our form. And it is an ID of email-form. So let's copy that, paste it in here. And then next, we're going to grab the email input. So I'll say const email input. And again, that's going to equal document dot get element by ID. And we want the email input, which is right here. So let's copy and paste that name in. And then we want our error message. So we'll say const error message equals document dot, and we're going to use query selector because we actually have that saved as a class. So we'll put the class name in here of error message. Then let's add our event listeners. And we just need an event listener on our email form itself. So we'll say email form dot add event listener. And we're going to listen for a submit from our submit button. And a lot of newbies, guys, you guys will you'll try to put a click event on the submit button to submit the form and do your JavaScript, but that's not the right way. The right way and the only way it's going to work is if you grab the form itself and you put a submit event on the form. And then that way when you click the submit button, it submits the form and then you can run your code. So make sure you don't do that. Put it on the form itself, your event, and it's got to be a submit event. And then we're going to run a function called check email. And then down here, we'll write our functions area. And we're going to say function check email. I'm going to put an E in there. And then we're going to say E, which is stands for event, and it helps us grab onto something called the event object. And if we submit the JavaScript form by default, it just submits and disappears right away. So just to show you what I mean, I'll do console.log, and we'll say checking JS form. Now so if we try to submit the form, we can see our console.log is briefly flashing, but it's submitting it automatically, so everything is just disappearing. So what you have to do is use that event object by putting a parameter of an E in here, which stands for event. And then you can use a built-in method called prevent default. So we can say e.prevent default, save. And now if we try it, our form doesn't just submit by default, it actually stays in the same state that we want it in, so that we can do some validation. If all of that went way over your head, again, guys, I hate to keep harping on it, but check out the complete web developer course. We go over all of this stuff in detail so you know what I'm actually talking about. Don't have an hour to go over all that now, but in the course I do. All right, so now that we got our form submitting here and we're checking it with JavaScript, we got to add one more thing called a regular expression so that we can actually check our email and make sure that it's valid. So I'm going to just make a comment and say regular expression. And this is basically, and it's also called, just so you guys know, in the programming world, it's called a regex for short. Regular expression, regex. And this is, a regular expression is just a little bit piece of code that you write in here that your browser, it's like a bunch of symbols, and then the web browser goes through that and checks for if the correct symbols are in there. So for example, for an email address, we're going to be looking for an @ symbol and a .com to make sure it's a real email. So we have to check that against something called a regular expression. That's how you do it in programming. So we'll say const, and I'm going to call this variable email pattern, and it's going to equal, and I'm just going to paste this in. Regular expressions look really crazy, as you can see. And learning them from scratch and writing them from scratch is very difficult and annoying. In fact, and before AI came out, there was people that really just specialized in writing really good regular expressions and making good money from it. Like that was an actual thing. Nowadays, what you will do to get a regular expression that looks like this, and what this regular expression does, as you can see from my comment, is it checks for an @ symbol and a .com. All of this just to do that. So regular expressions start with a / and end with a /, and everything in between there is the code you're looking for. These little things are called carets. If you want to learn more about these, just Google regular expressions and read articles about it if you want. But long story short, what you do nowadays is just go to ChatGPT. It's literally ChatGPT is free. Or any other AI model, and just type in, write me a regular expression that checks for a valid email. It'll give you a great one just like this one, and you can just copy and paste that in your code. I don't ever write regular expressions from scratch. I don't recommend that you do either unless you want to do a deep dive in that rabbit hole. But okay, so now we have our regular expression to check our code against. So we can get rid of this console.log. We don't need that. We know everything is working. And to check everything now, we're going to use an if statement. But before that, let's actually do one more thing. Within our function, we're going to use the trim method to remove any white space that people might have in their email address, so spaces that might break it or make our regular expression not work as intended. So let's make a comment that says remove white space in email input. And what by white space, guys, I'm talking about if somebody accidentally does this, where they start their email, but before it, they hit space a bunch of times and then write their email, or if they write their whole email out and then put a space. We're going to ignore that by using something called the trim method so that it still goes through for verification. So we're going to make a new variable here. We're going to say const email, and that's going to be equal to our email input dot value, so whatever value is in there, and then we're just going to say dot trims to get rid of the white space. And that's just best practice when you're validating form inputs to use the dot trim method. You use that in JavaScript, and you actually also do the same exact thing in PHP when you're validating stuff for the backend server, which is cool. A lot of stuff with JavaScript and PHP carry over to each other, so once you learn one, everything is very similar in the other. That's why they go together really well. That's why I teach them together. So next, let's validate our input with an if statement. So let's say validate form input. So we're going to say if email, which is our email input with the trim method on it. So if email is equal to empty string, in other words, if they just leave the email blank, or if email pattern, and we're going to put the not operator in front of it, which is an exclamation. So if email pattern, if the email doesn't match our regex, is what that basically means. And we're going to put the dot test method on here, and we're going to, again, just pass an email. Dot test just says, hey, test this against whatever comes before it, which is our email pattern, which is our regex. And again, guys, if you don't understand this, I go over it in my course really, really well. So we're going to keep moving, though. So we're going to say if, and we got 4 equal signs instead of 3. Let's change that. So basically, again, this code just says if the email input is left blank by the user and they try to click submit, or if they put something in there that is not an email and it fails the test in our pattern, which means it doesn't have an @ symbol or a .com, if it's wrong, do the following. We're going to say email input dot class list dot add. And we're going to add the class list of error border so that it gets that red error border around it. Next, we're going to display the message. So we're going to say error message dot style dot display going to be equal to block. So we're going to give it a red border and then display the error message that says please put a valid email. And then we'll say else if everything is good to go and the email is good. We'll copy this. We'll just type it out, I guess. We'll say email input dot class list dot remove error border if it's there. Get rid of that red border. And then we'll say error message dot style dot display equals none. Get rid of the error message. Make it display none. So we're basically undoing everything we would have done if something was wrong. And then we'll clear the input field. We'll say email input dot value equals blank. So get rid of anything that was in there before. And then we'll give the user a message that says they were successful. We'll say alert email has been submitted successfully. Check your inbox. Okay, so that the user gets some feedback that they're good to go. So let's check all this code and see if we did it right. So let's check it first. If our email is empty and we try to submit, we got an error somewhere. Let's inspect. Right click inspect. Reading trim. So we have an error in our trim code, probably a typo. Area value max is not what I said. VS Code always messes that up for me. Every time I put value, it puts that stupid thing in there. Okay, try this again. Stupid, man. All right, let's click notify me. Remember, it's empty, so if it's empty, we're getting our error border now, which is our code here, add the error border, and then make the message display. So that's happening. And let's see how it looks on mobile. It looks good. It's centered and everything. Now let's see, let's refresh the page and just try to put some nonsense in here. Try to submit it. Again, we're failing the regex pattern, so it's going to give us the error. Let's refresh. Let's put a real email in here. So let's put this one in here. Click notify me. Email has been submitted successfully. Check your inbox. Okay, so good. Now when we hit OK, it's going to clear everything. So that's working too. All right, guys. So that's it here for the ping little landing page here. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It taught you a lot, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you want the full code to this, you can go ahead and check it, the link in the description for my GitHub.